Hey everyone. Today's gonna be a little different kind of video. We're still gonna talk about Bernie, but we're also gonna talk about expansion of consciousness and an economy built on a currency of grace. I know, completely different things. Um, but I thought it would be good to take a break because I need a break. As most of you know, I spend most of my time on Twitter, and the last 2 days have just been crazy with the energy over there. Like, because the establishment has cranked up the anti-Bernie machine, and then with the smears and the spins, and then the anti-Bernies are piling on top of that, and then the burners are fighting back, and it's this, politics as usual. And even for me, it's been too much. So I wanted to take a break. And again, I realize this is part of the process. We're 6 months from Iowa, and it's just gonna happen more. But I think there's also plenty of things to talk about that don't involve politics as usual, but also um, are is on a different consciousness level, and that's something that I have personally been wanting to talk about more and want more people to talk about, which is why I started doing videos in the first place. And like, I'm working on a blog too to talk about that. Like, how can we talk more about consciousness in politics? Russell Brand, in his podcast, his video show, he's been talking about that more, and he's had like Marianne Williamson on as a guest, and it's great. I mean, and I love that she's in this race too, because she's interjecting some of that. Because here's why it's important that we talk about this, and because we don't, and we need to talk about it more, because one of my personal like favorite worldviews that really like changed life for me is when I realized that we're not humans having a spiritual experience, we're spirits having a human experience. Okay, so we're not humans having a spiritual experience, we're spirits having a human experience, and that completely changes like how you view the world. And when I say spirit is about like heart, soul, your inner being, like what you're about. It's not about religion. Religion is like a dogma and an institution. It's like out there. When we say spirit, this is like our soul, our being, like how we and what we're experiencing on this planet. And this body, this is our space suit. Okay, so we tend to frame things in terms of like, what's the spacesuit experiencing, versus like, our heart and soul, what's that experiencing in this world. And, but also that the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So if we want to change the world and our world view, that has to start internally. And that is a conversation that we need to talk more about, which also relates to this concept of currency of grace, which is something that I heard, I saw. So John Cusack, the actor, like tweeted this about, how Bernie is building this movement built on faith and this currency of grace, where we can have like justice, racial, economic, political, social justice, right, for this higher good of all, which I just was like really excited about, because that's something that my friends and family know. I've been talking about that for decades, and this is the world I imagine, right, where we have this world where we can just be, we can just love, and we can just create, and we can just have joy and experience. Like, because if you think about it, right, so where we currently live in this system of exploitation that keeps the 99% in economic servitude to the 1%, so they can perpetually get rich at the expense of people, animal, and planet. This is how we got to the climate crisis. This is how the younger generations are the first to experience downward mobility compared to their parents, right? This is why we have, a disease of despair. And Bernie talked about that in the Joe Rogan interview, about how we now have like for the first time in history, the our the lifespan of Americans is actually going down for the first time since World War II, or World War One, one of the big wars. But our lifespan is going down. There's a higher rates of suicide and deaths and the opioid crisis. All of this is happening because besides the climate crisis, we're having a crisis of the soul. We're having a crisis of the spirit because, again, we're living in this, we're spirits living in this man-made system that keeps us oppressed, that keeps us in servitude, that is based on like currency of money, which is a thing. And so we place our value, we base success around this thing called money, where like what I like about this idea of a currency of grace is that grace is a feeling. It's just a being. You just are. You have it, right? You don't have to work for it, earn it. It doesn't have to be validated. It doesn't have to be proven. Like, it just is. Because all of us as spirits are born with grace. We just have it. It's just part of us. Where like money, this currency of money, is we set up the system again where we've placed value on a thing. We've made that thing a value of who we are and what our value is as beings on this planet. And so it has created all this mess, and it's created this just low density, right? So the way I look at the 2020 race from a spiritual metaphysical perspective is that the universe is giving us a choice, which is why I really believe that Bernie Sanders will be in the general, because it's going to be this Trump and Sanders race. It's not about two humans. It's about two states of consciousness that the universe is going to make us as a collective choose. And what's at stake is the climate crisis. Okay, that's the clarion call. That's going to force us to make a choice. So Trump represents this old consciousness, the current consciousness that we're in, that is based on this lower density of hate, fear, greed, separation, right? And that's what he represents. And Bernie represents this expanded consciousness, right? That's based on love and compassion and this unity consciousness, right? That we're all in it together, which is what he says all the time, and which is why he's building a movement of people to come together, because he believes that we can't, the only way we're going to have change is if we collectively come together. Whereas, Trump in this old consciousness is, a power and control by the few by using fear and division so that small handful can keep their power and control. And Mother Earth is done with that. I think that's really what this climate crisis is that she's giving us a choice. Because in 2020, the president has a decade. We have a decade before irreparable damage happens. And then so 2020 is a critical point in humanity's timeline. And this is it. So the universe is making us choose. So you're going to choose to stay in the old paradigm of division, hatred, separation that created this crisis in the first place, or are you going to choose expanded consciousness and come together and operate more from unity and love and compassion? Because again, we are not humans having a spiritual experience. We're spirits having a human experience. And our human experience right now is based on this inner conflict. We're actually, along with the climate crisis, we're having a crisis of the soul and of the spirit, which again goes back to this, the disease of despair, and why we're cutting our lives shorter, because it's miserable living here. And I mean, who wants to, there's just so much pain now that's centered around this. And so we have an opportunity to choose something different. And I think that, that's the message that Bernie was trying to get through in his town hall this weekend, is that we've got to stop these limiting beliefs that asking for health care for all, asking for college for all, asking for livable wages, asking for secure retirement, like that, somehow that's asking for too much. It isn't. That should be normal. Right? We've just been taught, so in this system of exploitation, yeah, that's asking for too much, because then the rich, how did the 1%, that takes away from them. And all they care about is just accumulating more money and more power at our expense. But at some point, they're just going to take all of it, right? I mean, 3 people have more wealth than the bottom half. This interesting statistic I saw too is that only 26 billionaires have more money than the entire bottom half of the whole planet, okay? 26 people compared to the whole planet. So, this level of inequality is just, it is out of control, right? And the fact that, the military budget continues to grow, threat of nuclear war. I mean, all of these things, again, is still in the old consciousness. So in this expanded consciousness, I mean, we can have a president who will stop the endless wars, who will stand up to the military-industrial complex, who will say enough, will stop the greed of big pharma and the health insurance company, and cut out the health insurance industry because they are parasitic. There is no other purpose for them except to make money off of us, our pain and our suffering while we're sick. I mean, it's just, it's mind-boggling. But again, that's part of the old consciousness. And so we have this currency of grace where we put humanity first, right? We put love and compassion, empathy is prioritized. We operate from that level. And, we are here to enjoy life and to experience things and to love and to share and to co-create. Like, it's like it's a higher level, vibrational level of thinking and being. And we can have that. Like, again, that's not asking too much either. We have to stop with this, like, well, this is how it's always been and how it always will be. Well, it will be if we keep thinking like that, but we can have something different. We can have a different kind of president. We can have a different kind of country. We can all, more of us can wake up. We can help each other wake up. More of us can come together and create lives where we're co-creating and we're cooperating and we're, collecting and working together, and we have peace and compassion, meaning together. And that's the kind of world that I want to live in. And that's, where I, in my header, it's be the change you want to see in the world. And that's what Bernie inspired me to do, is be the change I want to see in the world. And, that's why I'm doing like more videos. Although, like, I've said this before, I don't like doing videos. I prefer to be behind the camera instead of front. But I'm doing them because in my meditations I'm being called to do them, and a lot of you like my videos and you want me to do more, so I do them because it's helping. If it's helping to get Bernie Sanders elected, I'm gonna do it. Even if it makes me uncomfortable. So I propose that to all of you as well. Like, if you want Bernie Sanders to be president and you choose that expanded consciousness, do everything you can. Go outside of if it means going outside of your comfort zone, because we have to do that now, because this is it. We have till next year. That's it. We're deciding. And so, do what you can. And let's talk about this more, right? So again, expansion of consciousness, an economy built on a currency of grace. Like, I think there could be a whole conference just on that. I would love that. Get a whole bunch of people together and talk about like this new economy and this concept of grace and love and compassion are what we lead with, and having that in the White House, like, but if you've been doing that, like, in the comments, like, leave your links, or if you want to talk about it, like, I want to talk about this some more. If you want to talk about it more, let let's do a group video, or I don't know, let's get together. I don't know. Let's just talk about it more, because we need to talk about again, how can we create a higher good of all for us spirits having this human experience.